in.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Alex. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are, your background, and why, what experience you've got with fire damage.
Okay, I'll be glad to because everyone deserves to know the truth right up front. There's so much misinformation. They all throw it around and, hey, everybody, everything's great. FEMA is here. They're going to take care of everything. And then you wait 6 hours in line and you fill out all their forms and say, oh, you live in this zip code that we are in right now? Yeah, you don't qualify. Well, then why are you here? Why did you make me waste my day? So I will be glad to help people realize and get through all that baloney, that all the politics that they play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your passion comes from this happened to you.
Absolutely.
It's happening right now to our neighbors, like right up north in LA, literally as we speak. But this isn't something that's even new to Southern California. Right in 2003 and 2007, here in San Diego, we had just absolutely devastating wildfires, and I mean, people here too were wondering, like, how are we going to rebuild? What does that look like? What does government aid, insurance, all that look like? And you were actually personally affected by that. So I'd like you to tell us that story.
Be glad to. Yes, our fire was in 2007 that I was personally affected, but of course in 2003 as well. In Scripps Ranch, there was a bunch of fires, a lot of houses that burned down, and unfortunately, after they rebuilt in 2003, in 2007, they lost their houses again. Your heart goes out to these people. But if I can help, at least with my experience, then maybe someone else will be helped that way. And so in 2007, yes, it was about 3:30 in the morning. We get a phone call, and of course, you're like, well, "Who's calling me at 3:30 in the morning?" It was a reverse 911 call, and they did let us know that we've got to evacuate. There's fires. And so I looked out the one window. I said, there's no fires. It's up in Ramona. That's what I heard last before we went to bed. And then all of a sudden I opened up the other window and there's a blaze of fire coming up the street, like 17 houses burned down. So it was shocking. I mean, the first thing you can't believe this. How can a wall of fire be coming up my street? I'm in the city. But it was so quickly. Children, grab the dogs, go to grandma's house with your car. We'll go with our car. We took the laptops, whatever we had ready, and off we went. So it was pretty crazy because you don't expect to do that at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially just because, like you said, like when you went to bed, the fire was in Ramona. That's how far was that away from your house?
Oh, about a 45-minute drive.
Yeah,
about 18, 20 miles, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not something that you're going to bed, fires far away, right? Maybe you see the smoke, but certainly not the flames. And then to just get that call in the early morning saying, like, it's right there, nobody expects that. And that's not something that I think that it's most people just aren't ready for that.
Well, they aren't. And also, once we got outside and got into our cars, the first thing we thought of it, well, we got to fill up gas, right? Let's get the gas going. And we filled up the gas tanks because we definitely didn't know what to do because you're not ready for it. So your mind's trying to compensate for it, but your actions are still looking around the neighborhood, and it's like a movie set to a movie. Everything was on fire. The trees were on fire. And so the reality is, after the shock wears off, then you're able to deal with things a little bit better. And so we went to grandma's house. We picked up grandma, and my brother-in-law had a kidney disease, so we needed to find a dialysis center. At 4 in the morning, you're not thinking too clear, but we were able to put it all together, and we headed straight south to there's a section in our city of San Diego where there's a bunch of hotels on Hotel Circle area. So we were able to grab a place that had handicap room and would take our two dogs. And so anyway, we got there and they were very gracious. They let us in. And of course, the next person that came 5 minutes later, they said, sorry, we just let out the last room. So it was really hard for a lot of people just trying to get a place to sleep at night. And so a lot of them were really stranded. It was sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like a lot of that is going on in LA right now, right? Like we've got, I don't know how many thousands of people are under evacuation notices right now, but like a lot of them, like the fire's still, I don't think it's contained yet. They're getting there. It's up from like 8% at the very beginning. Last I checked, it was 30-something% contained. But yeah, that's something else that like you don't think about like how many people are actually getting displaced, right? Because like hundreds of thousands of people, I think, got a notice or a warning in LA, and so that's hundreds of thousands of people who are doing that exact same thing. Like they're worried, they're on the roads trying to go south or east or wherever there isn't a fire, trying to find somewhere to stay, trying to get gas, get their family to safety. And so the initial like day when the warning comes in, that's just crazy.
Yes.
And I can't imagine.
Oh, it's hard to imagine. But if you're listening to this podcast and if you really want to learn something from it and get something from it, for heaven's sake, do that. Just doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter if you're in fire zone or not. Put together the laptops, the passports, all those papers that you're really going to need, and put them all in one section. You don't have to worry about putting in a fireproof safe because even the fireproof safes didn't work. They all melted and everybody's personal jewelry and everything went. So the reality is just be ready for it. Have it there. Be conscious so that if you get told, hey, you got to evacuate, the fires are coming, you'll go straight to where those important papers are and you just grab them and go. There's no time to think. And then, of course, the next step, which we've already discussed, for heaven's sake, go get some gasoline. Fill it up to the max, all your cars. Get them out of there because they will burn down. So if you have 2-3 cars and the children are gone to college or something, well, if it's safe, come back. Get your car and go park it somewhere else. Why lose your car? Yes, the insurance company will pay for it, but it's never a good thing. So anyway, that's a few things that you could plan ahead, whether you're in a fire zone or not.
Yeah, and it takes time and everything to rebuild. And of course, your advice doesn't just go for fires. I mean, storms, flooding, all that kind of thing. Good idea to be prepared ahead of time. I mean, actually just, was it last year, 2 years ago, we had a whole bunch of apartments flood when we had that historic rainfall. And so that's another thing. You don't expect that to happen. You're living in the city, we have good infrastructure, and then all of a sudden you wake up and there's water lapping at your front door. And then by the time you get home from work, it's like 3 feet higher than that. And so, yeah, just definitely a good thing to be prepared before anything happens.
Roy, you're absolutely right. That is something. Very strange things happen in life. And even a water issue that you don't even think about, and all of a sudden your living room is flooded with water. Yeah, the same thing applies. You're going to grab your laptops, your passports, get some gas, and get out of there, right? So very good point. It doesn't have to be just fires, tornadoes. If someone's listening to this back east, hurricanes, it's the same premise. You got to hightail it out of your house, but you got to be prepared so you're thinking and grabbing the most important things, or even a family picture. Oh, how many people were crying. Just their family pictures are all destroyed. They never made copies of it. And so there you go. Just some things that you can definitely plan ahead. And if you're listening to this, make it a point to do it right away as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because you never know when it's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna happen. And I think a lot of people who might be listening to this are like, okay, We've talked about property management the last couple of podcasts. What are we doing talking about fire preparedness, right? And so the reason is because so much of what we've seen in LA is it's family homes burning down. We've got I'm sure there are like apartment buildings that are if not burning, they're definitely within the evacuation zone. There are, I'm sure, hundreds of people who have investment properties in the affected area, and so it's equally important, I think, as an investor to have a plan for what happens. Make sure your insurance is good. Make sure that you have a plan for what you're going to do for your tenants if that happens. And then also, and the main reason I think that we wanted to talk today is what happens afterwards. So fire's contained, your buildings, say it's burned down. What happens next? And what aid can you expect from your insurance, from the government, from your neighbors, from your family, friends, all that. And so I wanted to ask you, Alex, what that looked like after the fire was over.
Okay, well, after the fire was over, there were some harsh realities for a lot of people who weren't prepared. So here we go, another thing on your list to do. Definitely pull out the insurance and look through it, because there is a clause there where it says rebuild a house. Yeah, but if you got insurance 20 years ago and to rebuild your house was 200 grand and now it's 600 grand, you better believe you better up it, because a lot of people got caught with that unfortunate thing. It's going to cost 600 grand to rebuild. Well, let's look at page 6, section 3. It only says that we will only give you 200 grand. So here's your 200 grand. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where's the other 400 grand? I need to rebuild my house at today's price. Well, you should have thought of that before. And a lot of people got burnt. And what did they do? They just sold the property. And it was just a vacant lot. But they sure didn't get, let's say there was a mortgage of $300,000, they didn't get $300,000. So there's some real serious things after the fire's over where you start opening up the paperwork and you start realizing that, OMG, what have I done? As a husband, as a father, I felt horrible. Why didn't I think of that? But until someone tells you, like this podcast is telling you, go ahead and up your rebuilding insurance policy, because that will be a harsh reality after the fire is done and you start opening up the books. For heaven's sakes, don't be caught in surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people think that their homeowners insurance is just kind of like blanket coverage, like if anything goes wrong, they will cover you no matter what it is. And unfortunately, that really isn't the case. You have to look closely. You have to make sure that the policy that you have covers everything that you need. And keep in mind, like you said, I had no idea that was a thing, that you have to just keep upping it to cover today's prices for a rebuild. I had no idea. So you've taught me something today.
I love it.
Yeah. So another thing that that people are kind of counting on is the government stepping in to help, right? Because whenever there's a natural disaster, the federal government, state government, local governments, what's supposed to happen is they're all supposed to come together and find a solution for the citizens, right? The taxpayers, and help them out. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of just like in the back of their mind, they're like, okay, if everything goes wrong, at least the government's still going to be able to do something. And I think what we're seeing in LA is that at the very least, there's some inefficiency there, obviously with anything government. But what was your experience with aid like that after the 2007 fires?
Well, my experience was not good. I mean, you know how benevolent the government can be right now. They insisted on giving everybody $770. Like, come on. $770? What is that going to buy me breakfast all week? $770 is all they offered
in
to
LA,
people.
that's like 2 nights in a hotel.
Exactly.
What are they going to do with that?
Exactly. So I wouldn't put too much hope in our government, not to be negative, but to be realistic. Anyone that's listening to the show needs to know that, you know, don't look to the government. And if you get it, hey, great news. You know, it'll be great news. However, the reality is that they started asking me for receipts. And I'm going, what receipts? Oh, yeah. For your couch. You can't just say $500 for a couch replacement. Oh, we need a mattress or whatever. Those are all things that you don't even think about. What do you mean? Why would I have that? So yes, for heaven's sake, if you're buying any furniture, take a picture of it electronically and store it in the cloud so that you can push one button and there's all your receipts, and then the insurance company can't back down. If it's, hey, I lost $100,000 in appliances and couches and beds and bread springs, I don't know, you gotta have a receipt for it. So start making receipts. Next time you buy a piece of furniture, take a picture of it electronically, because if there is anything that goes down, God forbid, of course, you want to be ready with these receipts. So that too was a little bit disturbing, that they would look me in the eye and say, oh, well, where's the receipt? Well, why in my right mind would I give you a receipt for $250 for a mattress? But they did expect it. Otherwise, they didn't offer anything more than the receipts that you could have.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's just a thing that we've been seeing. I mean, like we're in roofing, obviously, and we get calls all the time about people whose insurance is just looking to drop them. And I think the mindset that they have, unfortunately, is they don't want to pay you out for what they don't have to, right? If they can get away with not paying you as much as you deserve, they're going to do it, right?
That's their business, yeah, right? The last thing they want to do is pay out. So well, look, again, I'm not being negative. I'm being real. They do not want to pay out. Oh, you miss a payment, doggone it, they're going to cancel you. But when it's time to pay out, all of a sudden, they give you every excuse they can. So, hey, this is how we outsmart the insurance companies. We make a list, we get receipts, and we up our insurance. That's my 2 cents worth to anyone who's listening who wants to be prepared to a fire. And of course, we can do many more episodes. There's a lot more when it comes to rebuilding and how you rebuild and what materials you use. And we can say that for a later date.
All right, perfect. Well, one more thing I wanted to ask you before we end the episode. Is there anything that you wish that you had known before any of this happened? Like, say when you were buying your home, let's go all the way back then. What do you wish that you had known that you'd like to share with the listener?
The most important thing as parents, whoever we're responsible for, definitely the most important one is to accurately know what it will cost you to rebuild your home. It's just that simple. And every year you got to up it, because in California, it did go up every year. There are some farms in the Midwest, okay, they've lived there 30 years and, nothing has gone up other than, maybe the value of their property. But to rebuild is very critical in California, that you do an annual review. And if you need to tack on another 50 grand because prices have gone up, absolutely. That's one thing that I wish I would have known to do, and that's up my insurance, or at least accurately have a calculation of what it will cost to rebuild my castle.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess follow-up question, how do you do that? Because like most people aren't familiar with construction. We don't I don't think most people are just like have an idea of like, oh, the cost for a 2x4 has gone up like 20% this year. I better up my insurance by 70 grand or however much that would be. Most people just have no idea what it costs, and then labor rates and everything like that. How would you get that idea?
Well, the idea, obviously, you can go to the internet and they'll give you a range of like 100 to 200,000. Well, that's too wide of a range. So really then you have to consult someone who you can trust, like us. You can call us and we can definitely calculate what the actual costs for rebuilding. And if not us, we will definitely direct them to some contractor who will be willing to take the time for you and to give you a price assessment for rebuilding.
Yeah, we can point you in the right direction for sure. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Alex. I really do appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll be sure to have you back to talk about rebuilding and all of the more technical details that go into that. So thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome, Roy. Glad to do it. This is fun. Love just letting the people know the truth and the reality of what's going to happen instead of sugarcoating things.
Absolutely, that's incredibly important, I think. So thank you, listener, and we will see you next week with another episode. Bye-bye.